Let's talk about annuities. They're a huge part of retirement planning for so many people. But a simple misunderstanding between the different types of annuities could literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're going to get right to it and ask the big question, do you know what's really inside your retirement plan? I want you to picture this because you've probably been there. You're sitting in a school district meeting or maybe one of those free dinner seminars you got invited to. Someone hands you this really professional, glossy brochure for an annuity. It sounds safe, it sounds secure, and hey, it's being presented in a place you trust. But here's the question that almost never gets asked. Do you actually know what's going on under the hood of that thing? How does it really work? What does it cost you? What kind of risk are you taking on? Well, that's exactly what we're about to break down. So a lot of the time, those brochures are for something called a variable annuity. Okay, so what is it? It's an insurance product, and it invests your money into what are called sub-accounts, which for all intents and purposes are basically mutual funds. But here's the most important part you have to hear. You and only you bear all the investment risk. Sure, when the market is flying high, that's great, but when it crashes, your retirement savings go right down with it. And that risk, well, it brings us to this first huge point, the high cost of that risk. Because it's not just the market going up and down you have to worry about. No, there's often this hidden drain, this silent leak inside these variable annuities that can eat away at your savings for years and years. Here's the part that often gets glossed over in the sales pitch. The fee structure. It's like a layer cake of costs. First, you've got your mortality and expense fees. They call them M&E fees. Then, the mutual funds themselves have their own expense ratios. Oh, and if you want to add some kind of guarantee, like an income rider, yep, that's another fee on top of everything else. It adds up, and it adds up fast. So, when all is said and done, what's the grand total? It's not uncommon for all of these fees to stack up to 3 or even 4% every single year. Just let that sink in for a second. Your investments have to climb a 4% hill every year just for you to break even. It's a massive, constant drag on your account's growth. And this chart really paints the picture over time. You can see how your potential growth gets eaten away. First, those high fees are constantly taking a slice. And then, when a market drop happens, bam! That combination of high fees and market losses can be absolutely devastating to your long-term retirement goals. But beyond all the fees, let's be crystal clear. This right here is the biggest risk of all. When the market drops 30%, your account can drop 30%, or even more once you factor in those fees. There's absolutely no safety net, no floor, and no protection for your hard-earned principal. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, if these are so risky and expensive, why are they so common? Especially for people like educators and public employees. Well, that brings us to a huge issue that's known as the 403(b) problem. This quote really gets to the heart of the matter. A 403(b) is basically the public school version of a 401(k). The problem is, in a lot of states, the list of approved companies that can offer these plans is packed with insurance companies. And what's their go-to product? You guessed it, high-fee variable annuities. It's a systemic issue. And here's how it works in practice. These insurance agents are often the only financial reps who are actually allowed on school grounds to sell products. They can be in the teacher's lounge, at staff meetings. They have direct, trusted access. And the result is that so many educators are sold these products without ever even knowing that lower-cost, safer alternatives exist. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one, but there is a powerful and frankly much safer alternative. So let's shift gears and talk about a totally different kind of product, the Fixed Index Annuity, or as it's called, an FIA. And the key difference, the whole ballgame, is right here in this definition. With an FIA, your interest credits are linked to a market index, like the S&P 500, but, and this is critical, your money is never directly invested in the market. That one little distinction changes absolutely everything. So what does that structural difference actually get you? It gets you this, the single most important advantage when it comes to protecting your money, the 0% floor. So how does this floor work in the real world? This makes it super simple. Imagine the market has a terrible, horrible year. The S&P 500 drops 25%. Now, in that variable annuity, your account is down 25% plus fees. Ouch. But in an FIA, your account is credited with 0%. Now, you didn't make any money that year, but you didn't lose one single dollar of your principal to that market crash. So, number one, your principal is always protected. That's huge. But there's more. Any interest you do earn gets locked in every single year, and it can never be lost in a future market downturn. The growth is also tax-deferred. Now, what's the trade-off? Well, in exchange for getting rid of all that downside risk, there are usually limits, or caps, on your maximum potential gain in any single year. This chart really puts it all together. Let's just run down the list. Downside risk: with a variable annuity, you can lose principal. With an FIA, you have that 0% floor, your principal is protected. Fees: you're looking at 3 to 4% plus for variable, versus much lower and sometimes zero annual fees for FIAs. And locking in your gains: that's a no for the volatile variable annuity and a big yes for the FIA. It really just comes down to a clear choice. Are you comfortable with high risk, or is protecting your principal your number one priority? So all of this brings us to our final and most important section, your path to clarity. How do you actually make the right choice for your own financial future? I want you to burn this quote into your memory because it's really the core philosophy of smart retirement planning. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. At a certain point in your life, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important, if not more important, than growing it. So, to empower you, here are 4 questions that you need to ask any financial professional before you sign on the dotted line. 1. What are my total annual fees? Don't let them just give you one number. 2. Is my principal protected from market loss? It's a simple yes or no. 3. What are the surrender penalties? And 4. Is there a lower-cost, protected alternative you can show me? Look, if you have an annuity right now and you aren't getting straight, simple answers to those questions, that's probably a sign that it's time for a second opinion from a specialist. The source for this whole explainer, Jeung Agency, is an independent firm that specializes in exactly this kind of situation. And because they have access to over 70 different insurance carriers, they can help clients really review all their options to see if a safer, more efficient strategy might make sense for them. If you're interested, they offer a totally free, no-obligation portfolio review. You can check it out at jungagency.com. And that leaves us with one final, really important question for you to think about. Take a good hard look at your own retirement plan. Is it truly built to accumulate wealth for you? Or is it being silently drained away by high fees and market risk that you maybe didn't even know you had? Knowing the answer to that question is the absolute first step to securing your financial future.